It started like no other morning in that courtroom. The marble floors echoed under the weight of hundreds of polished shoes. Reporters whispered, shuffling papers and glancing toward the side entrance every 5 seconds. The tension was crawling through the walls like static before a lightning strike. The clerk adjusted his glasses. The judge reviewed notes under the low hum of fluorescent lights. And the jury, silent and unreadable, had already taken their seats. Then the double doors opened quietly and Sean Diddy Combs walked in. He didn't enter like a man who owned music, clubs, real estate, and half the fashion industry. He entered like a man who hadn't slept. His eyes scanned the room and locked on no one. A gray tailored suit framed him perfectly, but no amount of designer stitching could cover the storm underneath his skin. Every step he took toward the defense table felt deliberate, like he was walking into a chapter of his life he could never rewrite. The courtroom murmurs were low but hungry. Former associates seated in the gallery. Anonymous spectators who somehow secured access. A few celebrities in sunglasses trying not to be noticed. The judge banged the gavel sharply once, silencing everyone. But even that thud felt heavier than usual. The charges were complicated on paper, but the heart of the case was simple. Did Shaw Combs, behind the curtain of power and money, cross a line that could never be uncrossed? And more importantly, would the truth finally come out? A clerk began reading off the case details, and the words felt surreal. Diddy sat quietly, hands folded, occasionally glancing sideways toward his attorney, who leaned in and whispered something under his breath. Diddy didn't nod. He didn't blink. He just stared ahead as if rehearsing a version of events no one else would believe. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. The prosecutor, a woman known for dismantling corrupt politicians and white-collar titans, stood with calm fire in her eyes. She didn't pace. She didn't raise her voice. She simply began to paint a picture, a timeline that crisscrossed music tours, midnight flights to unknown airstrips, surveillance footage from decades ago, and anonymous testimonies from people who could no longer stay silent. The jury didn't blink. Every phrase, every pause felt like a scalpel being drawn carefully across the surface of Diddy's past. The prosecutor spoke of manipulation, of fear, of choices made behind closed doors where no camera could ever reach. And she ended with a statement so cold it felt like the courtroom temperature dropped. We're not here to attack a legacy. We're here to reveal what that legacy cost. Diddy's jaw moved slightly. Whether it was a tick, a tremor, or rage trying to stay buried, no one could tell. But what everyone felt deep in their gut was that this was not going to be a trial about business deals or broken contracts. This was going to be a war of truths. And the first shot had just been fired. The silence that followed the prosecution's opening remarks was so complete, it felt like time had stopped. Even the judge leaned back, watching Diddy's face like a man trying to read a storm before it breaks. Then came the first witness. He entered from the far door with U.S. Marshals on either side, tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes shielded behind clear-rimmed glasses, his face pale but composed. He had once been Diddy's most trusted bodyguard. The courtroom collectively held its breath. He took the oath, sat down, and waited for the prosecutor to begin. "Tell the court," she said. "How long you worked for Mr. Combs?" "6 years," he said. His voice was flat, like gravel under tires. "And what was your role in that time?" "I handled transportation, security, confidential coordination during tours, and off-record business meetings." That last phrase cut the air like a razor. She leaned in. "What do you mean by off-record business meetings?" He shifted in his seat. "Meetings that weren't on the official calendar. Ones I was told to forget before they even happened." The gallery leaned forward, every seat creaking like the floor itself wanted to hear more. Diddy didn't look at him. He stared ahead, his right hand gripping the edge of the defense table so tight the veins in his wrist had risen. The witness spoke of a night in late 2016. A snowstorm had grounded most flights in the Northeast, but Diddy had to be in a room in Manhattan by 2 a.m. No questions, no excuses. He said a private car was dispatched under a fake ride-share company name. Inside the vehicle, a briefcase sat on the seat. He wasn't told what was inside just to make sure it got into the room and no one followed. What happened in that room? The prosecutor asked. He paused, looked down, then said, 3 men went in. 1 came out. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge slammed the gavel. Order. The jury shifted, visibly shaken. Someone in the gallery muttered, "No way." Another scribbled furiously in a notebook. Did he remain still, but his lawyer leaned in, whispering rapidly. No objection was raised. Not yet. The witness went on. He described Diddy pacing the lobby of a downtown hotel, wearing a hoodie, sunglasses at 2:30 a.m., looking over his shoulder every 5 seconds. He remembered Diddy saying one thing over and over under his breath. "This can't blow back." The prosecution asked, "Did you ever report this?" He hesitated. "No." "Why not?" "Because the moment I even thought about it, someone close to me disappeared. I took the warning." The tension in the courtroom was now a living thing. The judge looked troubled. The stenographer's fingers never stopped. The defense still hadn't spoken. It was a chess move, and everyone knew it. They were waiting, but the crowd, both inside and the millions watching the updates outside, weren't waiting anymore. They were seeing something they never expected. The myth unraveling thread by thread, and the thread had just begun to fray. The defense rose slowly. Diddy's lead attorney, a man known for slicing apart federal witnesses with surgical calm, buttoned his blazer and stepped toward the stand. The room tensed. He didn't even look at the jury, his eyes locked onto the witness like he'd been waiting years for this moment. "You mentioned a briefcase," he began, his voice controlled. "Did you open it?" "No," the witness replied. "So, you have no idea what was inside?" "I was told not to open it." "Told by who?" The witness hesitated. "Mr. Combs." "But you just testified that he never directly said what was in the case." "Correct." "Correct. Then how exactly do you know it contained anything illegal?" The bodyguard shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't say it did. I just know." "Objection." The defense cut him off, raising a hand. "He's speculating." The judge nodded. "Sustained. Jury will disregard that last statement." And just like that, the courtroom began to tilt. The defense moved in like sharks who smelled blood in the water. The attorney adjusted his tie, then pulled out a sheet of paper. "Do you recall giving this interview to the Source magazine in 2019? "Yes." "In it, you said, and I quote, 'Did he always treated me like family? I'd take a bullet for that man.' Sound familiar?" The witness said nothing. And here, the attorney continued flipping pages. "You said, 'I never saw him cross a line, not once. People talk, but they don't know the real Diddy.' That's you, correct?" "I said those things, but now years later, after your employment ended and certain civil cases started gaining traction, now you claim he's responsible for a midnight meeting that resulted in only one man walking out. That's quite a shift in loyalty, isn't it?" "I'm just telling the truth now. Or perhaps telling a version that benefits you financially. You've been paid for interviews, haven't you?" Yes. Books in progress, not finalized. Podcast deal. I haven't signed anything, but discussions have taken place." A long pause. "Yes." The defense attorney turned toward the jury for the first time. "Ladies and gentlemen, credibility is everything. And when a man tells you one truth while cashing checks for another, ask yourself which version is the truth and which is for sale. The gallery stirred. Even the prosecutor frowned slightly. Her arms folded tightly. The momentum had shifted. Diddy didn't move, but for the first time that morning, he closed his eyes. The judge called for a short recess. As people stood, the room buzzed like a hive. The witness left the stand, escorted by marshals. His shoulders were hunched now, smaller somehow. As the jury filed out, some looked conflicted. One older juror, a woman in her 60s, shook her head, lips pressed tight. And while the prosecution regrouped and the defense calmly returned to their seats, Shah Diddy Combs remained frozen, still as stone. Outside, a storm was brewing in the press. But inside the courtroom, the game had just begun, and no one could predict who would bleed first. When court resumed, the temperature in the room had changed. It wasn't the thermostat. It was the shift in energy. The jury looked more alert, more cautious. The gallery had gone from a silent audience to a crowd teetering between disbelief and fascination. But no one, not even the prosecution, expected who was called to the stand next. A woman in a navy blue pantsuit stepped through the side door. Mid-40s, poised, no makeup beyond the essentials. The room collectively inhaled. She had been one of the most elusive figures in Diddy's past. Not a romantic partner, not a business associate, but something far more dangerous in a trial like this. A quiet observer with nothing left to lose. She raised her right hand, swore in, and sat with the kind of stillness that doesn't come from peace, but from years.